This is CBC Vancouver News.
Snow-grounded planes, trapped passengers, icy roads, broken down buses, frozen SkyTrain doors, and delayed ferries. Just some of the headaches thrown on people across the south coast as they woke up to a lot of snow, at least a foot in some places. Drive BC issued travel advisories for sections of the Coquihalla and Highway 1 as well, and there was no sign of a let-up. Environment Canada has maintained Arctic outflow warnings for Metro Vancouver and the Fraser Valley. Good evening, I'm Dan Burritt. Thanks for joining us. Anita is on assignment this week. It has been a chaotic day across our region, and our reporters have been out in the middle of it, chatting with people as they grind through a challenging day. Amira Baines is live in downtown Vancouver, John Hernandez live at YVR, and Kuljeet Kaila is standing by to give you the latest weather forecast for our entire province. Let's first go to Mira Baines just outside our newsroom here in downtown Vancouver tonight. Looking at the slowdowns on the roads and transit and its impact on people, Mira, not an easy day for anyone trying to get anywhere.
That's right, Dan. That major dump of snow led to transportation nightmares across Metro Vancouver. With up to a foot of snow across parts of Metro Vancouver, clearing efforts couldn't keep up. Bus and SkyTrain commuters faced major delays. What's normally a 15-minute trip took much longer.
For 2 hours, almost 2 hours. I didn't expect so much snow because everybody talks about the good weather from Vancouver. It's not like Winnipeg, it's not like Toronto, it's not like Montreal.
I started in Surrey. I'm just getting here. I'm going to Midway Broadway. It's been a couple hours.
The heavy snowfall is considered a rare event for the South Coast, but more freezing temperatures are to come.
We do have our Arctic outflow warnings in effect for the lower mainland here. So with that, we're going to experience some very chilly wind chills the next 2 mornings, down below -20, in fact.
And that means more challenges keeping transit moving.
There has been some larger gaps in service.
TransLink says staff have been busy trying to keep snow and ice away.
We've been positioning staff at key stations with de-icer fluid and hockey sticks to clear snow from the doors, as well as to defrost any doors that have ice buildup.
Taxi drivers were delayed getting to work and slammed with calls when they did make it, with customers waiting.
Some 2-3 hours. I mean, in the morning we had over 400 passengers that called in waiting.
The bitter cold and snow is especially difficult for people without permanent homes, including encampments on the downtown east side.
Once you get wet, the cold and the frostbite and a little bit of wind chill, you get frostbite very quickly.
The city of Vancouver says it was prepared, even as side streets were clogged.
Our focus is really right after the snowfall is getting those major routes cleared. So our major roads and bridges, our pedestrian pathways, the 4 key pathways that we do, access roads to hospitals.
For others, the winter storm is a chance for some breathtaking seaside exercise.
Getting a little of our capillary system working, you stay in for 4 minutes.
Still, Environment Canada is monitoring another possible punch of winter before the end of the week.
Do want to caution that we are tracking a system for Thursday night into Friday. This could bring some very hazardous conditions on the traveling routes.
He says it's unclear if it will bring more snow or freezing rain as temperatures begin to warm up. BC Ferries has also issued a warning about those Arctic outflows, saying that they're monitoring the situation and the Arctic outflows could affect ferry service tomorrow. Dan?
Mira Baines reporting live outside our studio tonight. Thank you, Mira. To YVR now, where the snow and cold have wreaked havoc on passengers, crews, and staff. Flights have been getting delayed or canceled all day, leaving many with no idea if or when they will get to where they want to go. John Hernandez joins us live from YVR, where he's been speaking with stranded travelers today. John, what are they telling you?
Travel horror stories, Dan. As you can see, this place is absolutely slammed right now. People still coming in, long lineups, canceled flights, and a lot of frustrated passengers.
At Vancouver International Airport, a travel nightmare.
We got here and it was absolute chaos. The lineups were already so very long.
Flight after flight canceled, some passengers stuck here for days.
So we've gone on the actual plane multiple times, and then we've sat on the tarmac for maybe 6 to 8 hours, and then redirected back to the gate and have to do it all over again the next day.
It started with a blitz of cold and snow on Sunday, forcing widespread flight delays and cancellations. Then more snow on Monday night into Tuesday morning that grounded every plane here.
We didn't realize it would be this bad. So you start off just accepting it, and then you get more and more frustrated, and then you get more and more tired.
This couple from New Zealand was stuck on the tarmac for 13 hours with their 1-year-old, watching as their supply of baby formula dwindled.
We would have had enough for a bit of a stoppage or delay, but for how long we were on there and how much we were having to give him to try to keep him from screaming. Yeah, we ran through it quickly.
At baggage claim, a sea of abandoned luggage. Others wait for suitcases that never come.
Inside of my suitcase personally, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people are in the same boat. All my Christmas gifts, my family and everything, right? So it's tragic to leave that.
The situation made more dire by earlier snowstorms in central Canada, which had already backed up flights across the country.
That basically meant that many of these airlines had aircraft stuck in the wrong airports.
And now there likely won't be enough seats to go around for the thousands stranded.
It's going to make it extremely difficult and virtually impossible for people who have delayed or canceled flights at this point in time. The chances of them getting to their destination from Vancouver anywhere east is very slim.
John, a very tough day for a lot of people. What are airports and airlines telling passengers now?
Yeah, patience is the key word right now. The airport says the number of flight cancellations today was unprecedented, but a small number of flights actually did take to the air today. Those left behind are being told to contact their airlines. Air Canada is advising people to rebook online. And if you do have a flight booked in the coming days, it's important to keep tabs on that because more delays and cancellations are expected in the days ahead. Dan.
John Hernandez reporting live from YVR. Thank you, John. Now, let's get a recap of what happened today with Kuljeet Kaila and an early look at the forecast. Challenging is an understatement in this case, isn't it?
It was. Obviously, as we've seen, challenging for many people traveling, commuting. But let's go outside and take a look at our time lapse first to see what kind of happened during the day. A lot of this was happening. A lot of shoveling was going on. It was nice to see everybody get the sidewalks because that is what you do. And it made it easier if you were walking anywhere. So a lot of this happening. It's going to happen again. Unfortunately, it will happen towards the end of the week. We are going to see a little bit more snow, and it's going to be a while before this, what we got today, is going to melt. The other big story is all these warnings across BC, wind warnings, extreme temperature warnings. We are seeing cold, frigid temperatures that we haven't seen since about 2008. Right now, outside current temperatures, -9 in Pitt Meadows, -7 at the airport, -10 out in Abbotsford. Across BC, check this out. Today and tomorrow is the coldest temperatures. Fort Nelson at -36 as the high, -40 as the low. Just to give you a bit of an example of how cold it's getting with this Arctic front. In the next few days, this is what we'll see. We'll see temperatures in the minuses, -8, turning to 2 degrees by about Saturday. So that's how long it's going to be before the temperatures start getting back to what should be what is seasonal. Sunset today at 4:15, rises tomorrow. Look at this, -12 tomorrow. Our high tomorrow, -10. Bundle up. I forgot my gloves today, Dan. Regretted it.
It won't happen tomorrow, will it?
No, it won't.
All right. Thanks, Kuljeet.
You're welcome.
As Kuljeet mentioned, the early morning snowfall also caused its own version of chaos on Vancouver Island, including Victoria. High snowdrifts covered sidewalks around the city. BC Ferries, local transit, and Victoria Airport were also hit with cancellations today. Many people digging their own way out of their parking spots and driveways as well. Still, for others, work didn't stop when the snow began.
It was terrible up at Sydney, and we got stuck right away at the yard, and We just actually started to go now with all the other freight trucks coming down since 3 in the morning. So.
Now, although transportation was slowed down by the snow, many still had to commute to work. Delivery services, retail workers, food and hospitality, all of them out braving the cold. It wasn't just people in the capital city digging out. Further up island, many found themselves buried under 30 centimeters of snow that fell overnight. But as Claire Palmer reports from Nanaimo, some made the most of it with a little outdoor fun.
It's no easy going in Nanaimo as the second winter storm of the season blows in. Environment Canada says up to a foot of snow fell overnight in some areas. Across Vancouver Island, BC Ferries, local transit, and the Victoria Airport all faced cancellations. While some may find the snow a nuisance, others are choosing to stay positive.
I'm cleaning the snow, lots of fun. I love it. Now I start from 7 o'clock here. I do my breakfast, good breakfast. Wife, she's make a good breakfast. Now I have a lunch. Life is good for everyone. Just come outside, enjoy the weather, enjoy the snow. Just on a winter we have snow.
With kids on winter break, many are taking advantage of the prime sledding conditions. Nanaimo's Bowen Park is a big draw for siblings Jasper and Will.
Just sledding and donut in the truck. It's fun, you should try it. It's fun. Did you say it's fun? Fun.
People of all ages have gotten in on the outdoor activities, including jolly old St. Nick. More snow is in the forecast for Nanaimo, but by the weekend, it's set to shift to rain. Claire Palmer, CBC News, Nanaimo.
If you're waiting for parcels, bills, or letters to reach your mailbox, you're going to have to wait a bit longer. The snow and cold prompted Canada Post to halt delivery just before noon. That affects the entire south coast from the Fraser Valley and Metro Vancouver to southern Vancouver Island and Victoria. It also warned of delays in Kelowna, Kamloops, north and central BC, like Prince George, Powell River, and the rest of Vancouver Island. It says delivery will restart when it's safe, but they do ask you to shovel and clear your walkways, stairs, and driveways for postal carriers. The extreme weather and a deep freeze in parts of BC is having a direct impact on how much power we're using. Demand is way up, enough to break a provincial record. BC Hydro says we've hit a new peak for hourly electricity use. Last night, our record 10,800 megawatts were used within a single hour by at least a slim margin. That's a new high since last year. The utility says that's driven by people heating their homes. And with the cold set to stay, Hydro expects power demand to stay high. A year spent dealing with the aftermath of multiple disasters and changing government leadership. BC Green Party leader Sonia Furstenau looks back on the year in BC politics and what's ahead. Stick around. And thanks to everyone watching our commercial-free live stream tonight. We're going to return to our top story tonight. Heaps of blowing snow and unusually cold temperatures have swept across the lower mainland and Vancouver Island. The weather has led to mass cancellations at YVR, leaving the terminals filled with exhausted and frustrated passengers.
Flight was to leave at 5, and then they started delaying it, and kept delaying it. So it came to be about 7:40, and they said, okay, we're going to go. So they started loading us onto the plane. So we finally got on. Then we were delayed on the plane just at the gate for about an hour and a bit, I think.
Yes.
And then they said, oh, we think we have a window. So we went out to the de-icing station, and they de-iced the plane, and that was as far as we ever got. They said, no, it's too much snow now, we can't go. And we just sat there until 7:40 this morning.
I got a ticket for just after 1 to leave tomorrow, so I have to stay here all night again. That'll be night number 2.
We're trying to go on a vacation to Cabo San Lucas, but all our flights are canceled. Now we're trying to get an Uber to take us over to a hotel, which seems to be a little hard.
It's unreal, and this is our first time here to Canada, and I guess maybe naively thinking that you guys were here in Canada used to snow, but I was told that it came on very, very sudden and quick, and there's it's Mother Nature at its best.
That's okay. You help.
Careful here.
The BC Greens say they are on track to a record-breaking year for fundraising. The party hopes to get new members and has put out a call for candidate nominations in case a snap election is called in BC. Our provincial affairs reporter Mira Bain sat down with BC Green Party leader Sonia Furstenau to review the year and look to the new one.
How would you describe the last year as the leader of the Greens?
I think what we're seeing generally is that the kind of governing we need in these times of all of these crises, whether it's climate, weather-related event crises, or it's the ongoing pandemic, or as we're seeing, a flu surge right now, we need governments to get out in front of this. We need governments to be a lot more proactive. And what we've had from this government in particular is often waiting until things are really in an emergency and then responding. So whether that was the wildfires in 2021, the atmospheric river a year ago, and this year I would say a kind of just letting go of efforts to manage the pandemic.
We also had the BC NDP leadership race, and there were some accusations that the Greens were trying to take over the NDP, and some Green members were becoming members of the NDP so they could vote in the leadership race. I'm just wondering, what do you say to those accusations?
It's laughable. It's truly laughable. I mean, Adam and I have been working as a caucus to hold this government to account and to present a vision for British Columbia that we have. In a leadership race, in an election campaign, your job is to inspire people to want to join you. And when I was running a leadership race in 2020, I was encouraging NDP members to come and join our party, to get excited about what we were offering. That's how politics works in a democracy. Nobody owns anybody else's members or memberships or anything like that. We've seen a pretty significant bump in memberships and donations in the last couple of months as people, I think, come to terms with the NDP clearly isn't wanting to go in the direction of having a climate leader in the Premier's office, of having an equity-based approach to governing in this province, and what we're getting mostly is kind of a status quo. That the NDP have not only really not met their promises, but they have increased subsidies to oil and gas. They have increased oil and gas activity and infrastructure under their tenure. They have not kept their promise on ending the logging of old growth. They have not kept their promise on really being climate leaders.
Before we look at the year that was, I want to ask you about a possible snap election. Do you feel that that's something that could be coming?
have had assurance from the Premier that there is no plan for a snap election, and I hope that he's true to his word. We have election legislation, fixed date legislation, but we're not going to be unprepared if that is the case. And so we have opened nominations for the BC Green candidates, and we are preparing for an election, hopefully in 2 years from now, but if it is happening sooner, we will be ready. You know, I have no control over whether they throw an election or not, but what I think British Columbians need from this government is governing.
How does the Green Party attract those young people, all those people that were so interested in this BC NDP leadership race and trying to get behind this climate activist?
We need more BC Greens in the legislature. We have pushed this government on ending oil subsidies, on ending old growth logging. We've pushed this government on ending corporatization of healthcare. We've pushed this government on focusing on non-market housing as a solution to our housing crisis in BC. Two Greens have been the voices on these issues over and over again. With more Greens, we can have even more outcomes that are focused on people and a healthier future for this province.
If you thought you'd seen the last of the snow, think again. More on the heavy snowfall, dropping temperatures, and fallout for travelers and commuters coming up. Plus, as people in Hong Kong flee to Canada, the push for Ottawa to simplify the immigration process. Stick around.
It rains an awful lot in Vancouver, but it doesn't snow very often. In fact, last year there was no snow at all. So when it snowed this morning, people just really weren't prepared for it. Karen Webb reports.
Vancouverites like to dream about a white Christmas, but they know very well they didn't mean it when that dream comes true. In almost any other city in Canada, 10 centimeters of snow is no problem. Rather routine, in fact. But in Vancouver, it's just frustration on the freeway. This is the city where windshield wipers are supposed to be for rain, not snow. There are advantages, of course, the unexpected side effects that come from coping with adversity. It's a great way to meet new people. It's a chance to travel some unfamiliar trails. And for some, the snow provided that little bit of incentive to take up the abandoned exercise program. Others learned about the real meaning of patience. A good place to learn about that was the airport, where the flights that weren't canceled were delayed. The snow on Vancouver's Dome Stadium also created one of Canada's unique jobs. Up there on the roof of BC Place, nope, not mountain climbers, roof washers. The weight of the snow was just too heavy for all that hot air inside holding up the dome. Only in Vancouver, you say? Karen Webb, CBC News, Vancouver.
Welcome back. Now back to our top story. Winter weather has ground parts of the south coast to a halt. Well, the message of today seems to be stay at home to avoid the aftermath of the heavy snow. Many simply don't have that option, like those working in essential service or someone who needs medical care. But the seemingly simple act of walking to the bus stop was a challenge today, like everyone, including those who were injured.
I was from home, just up the hill, right? And I went down here, and I walked over to the bus stop to try and get there. So I just put the air cast in a boot to try and protect myself because the snow was really high. So now I'm just gonna go back up the hill and then just wait it out.
And she's not alone. Many British Columbians are hunkering down to wait it out. But as Lindsay Duncombe reports, there are plenty of people who have to be outdoors. And getting everyday tasks done in sub-zero temperatures is a big challenge.
The scenery is breathtaking as long as you aren't trying to get anywhere.
I missed the Christmas a couple years ago, so I don't really want to miss another one. So I'm doing anything in my power to make sure I'm there.
Tanner Hall is trying to get to BC's interior to spend Christmas with his 3-year-old daughter. His flight was supposed to leave Sunday, but he got stuck on the tarmac twice. Blame the weather.
I tried to rent a car, and then they told me it would be 2 days. My next flight would be next Friday. So I'm kind of dead in the water until Friday.
Some journeys cannot be delayed. This outreach worker is making sure Claudia West gets to a clinic to take medicine that keeps her from using heroin.
Really tough. You can barely get through. Yeah, thank God for some shovelers back there. Some parts are okay, but can't get through this.
The snow makes the vulnerable more so. All night, Jory Reben kept pushing snow off the tarp he sleeps under so it wouldn't collapse on top of him.
So I had to constantly keep working, keep checking, and make sure that I was prepared for anything that was about to happen.
Probably didn't get much sleep.
No.
Drivers in the Lower Mainland, yes, even those insisting on a 2-wheel commute, aren't used to these conditions. The wait for taxis, hours long, with dispatch triaging calls based on need.
We're looking after the medical appointments, people that have been waiting for doctors.
Vancouver Island got even more snow.
A lot of hassle, but it's pretty.
Not all British Columbians are rattled by extreme weather. In the north and the interior, this is winter as usual. That's where Tanner Hall is trying to go. But more bad news.
The text said the Coquihalla is closed.
So what does that mean?
So I don't think I'll be getting on this bus.
Now, the highway did open later, so he may indeed have made it. There are a lot of concerns across southern British Columbia. Daycares were closed. Will they stay closed? When will they open again? Also, Canada Post has suspended service in some areas, so that means Christmas presents may be delayed. Lindsay Duncombe, CBC News, Vancouver.
Meanwhile, the slippery roads and snow-covered sidewalks are hitting seniors hard across BC's Lower Mainland. As Janella Hamilton reports, some of the province's most vulnerable are opting to stay at home for fear of getting injured outside.
It can be very frightening for people, older people. And if you're unsteady on your feet to start with, that's even worse.
Every day, 80-year-old Lorna Klon walks outside for exercise. But today, she's opted to stay indoors for fear she may slip and fall on the icy sidewalks.
Well, one can break a hip, one can, that's the main thing is injuring yourself and having to go to the hospital.
Klon, who is still recovering from heart bypass surgery, says she is unable to shovel snow, but is fortunate to have friends who offer to help her out on snowy days.
When you feel independent, and you've always been independent, it's hard to give that up and to actually reach out and ask for help.
89-year-old Marilyn Dyer relies on a home care nurse every morning to test her heart and give her medication. Today, her care provider was not able to make it to her home due to the snow. Dyer, who is also legally blind, depends on a cane, which she says is not usable in the snow.
You go out there and the rubber on the bottom gets wet, it'll slip. So
Right now, I'm staying in until I see a bit of sidewalk out there.
Klon says there are many seniors like her who live in South Surrey and are isolated inside their homes during heavy snowfall.
I have a friend who's very difficult for her to get out of her house because it's on a hill.
And even programs that provide outreach to the most vulnerable are halted by the weather.
As you can see, we have gift baskets here that we prepared yesterday and that volunteers were going to pick up today and distribute to the vulnerable adults in the community. So this is going to have to wait a little bit.
And it's not just the aging population that experiences isolation during the winter.
Especially for people with dementia, it can be very confusing because their routine is broken and they rely on routine.
Dyer says no matter your age or ability, with extreme weather events becoming more common with climate change, planning ahead is key.
I always have a little extra water on hand. I always have a little extra food on hand, and I have my medication that's there for a couple of days.
Dyer is reminding people to check in on their loved ones this winter season. Janella Hamilton, CBC News, South Surrey.
It was first thought that the snow would stick around for just a few days, but the forecast has shifted ever so slightly. As the CBC's meteorologist Johanna Wagstaff explains, last night's snow has increased our chances of a white Christmas.
Here in North Vancouver, we saw about 25, maybe even 30 fresh centimeters of snow. This is our second big snowfall of the week. This is an incredible amount of snow for Vancouver. And we saw about 30 centimeters plus in Victoria, 30 centimeters for Coquitlam. Lots of closures, SFU campus and exams completely shut down. Cars jackknifing. You do not want to be out on the roads at all, but especially if you don't have snow tires. This might be the biggest snowfall since 2008 for much of the south coast, particularly Victoria. We just have this big Arctic air mass in place. Any system that moves in from the Pacific, this is going to fall as snow, and that's exactly what happened. We are looking at another snowfall for Thursday before possibly changing over to rain as we head into Christmas Eve. But with this kind of snow on the ground, even with rain and temperatures above zero, I bet we're looking at a white Christmas. But get ready for icy conditions with temperatures continuing to stay below freezing for the next couple of days. Yeah, we have La Nina really to blame for this. This is our third La Nina winter. We had an incredibly snowy winter and Christmas season last year, and it is just wild how La Nina really lines up to cold and snowy sometimes on the west coast. It's definitely a Bernie's Mountain Dog kind of day. Johanna Wagstaff, CBC News, North Vancouver.
And as a Bernese Mountain Dog will tell you, the blast of winter isn't chaos for everybody. For some, it means less work and more play. How nice. The CBC's Beneek Brage caught up with those having a fun snow day with skiing, sledding, and of course, snow angels.
This snow-struck day couldn't come at a better time for 12-year-old Callie.
I was so excited. I couldn't wait to go play in it.
Hey, here they go!
You don't know, sometimes you'll fall over, or sometimes you'll go super fast and then face plant in the snow. It's just so much fun.
And her Nona is joining in on the fun. The family enjoying heaps of fresh snowfall on Mount Seymour.
We're well over a meter of snow at the base and we're approaching 2 meters at the top. For mid-December, it is phenomenal. We're seeing a lot of people out just enjoying the fresh snow and the dry snow. Lots of kids in lessons today.
All good news for those keen on hitting the slopes and hills.
What do you like about skiing?
Powder.
Meanwhile, at local parks, the little ones are sliding and gliding away, like here at Kensington Park.
4, 3, 2, 1! What's your favorite part of this?
The bumps. The runs are so good and you could really just feel it.
When you go down the hill, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking that I'm flying.
His dad even made him a bump and outlined it with
hot chocolate.
And why did that help you?
Because Dad put it on so I can see the jump.
Some areas of Vancouver Island and the Lower Mainland received up to 30 centimeters of snow overnight. And for some of those snowed in, family fun was a short walk away.
Being able to spend a lot of good quality time with family, it's good. You know, we really appreciate it.
For some, snow day is about making snow angels. laughter and giggles, a clear sign that for some, especially the little ones, fresh powder has simply meant taking time for more fun. Benny Brach, CBC News, Vancouver.
After the break, more travel trouble across this country. People flying from Toronto to Newfoundland and Labrador are waiting days to get back home. And back in this province at 6:34, almost 5, a live look at snowy Nanaimo, the waterfront. A tough day across our region if you tried to get around. Kuljeet will have your BC-wide weather forecast after this. One stretch that is blanketed with snow and slush is the Sea to Sky Highway, and that is where we find our Anita Bath tonight. Anita.
I don't hear anything.
Anita, what are the conditions like, as we can obviously see? Yeah.
Dan, I don't know if you can tell what the conditions are like out here. I'm sure you can, but it is very messy. To give you some perspective, this snow that's coming down right now, it's extremely heavy, extremely thick. I wouldn't even call them snowflakes. I would call them ice pellets. When they hit my face, it really hurts. And it's been coming down like this since about 2 o'clock. So you can imagine how thick this snow actually is at this point. Now, not only is this a Friday night heading up to Whistler, it's also a Friday night just before New Year's Eve. So a lot of cars trying to make their way down this Sea to High Skyway stretch. Roads here are covered in snow. You can't even see the road at all. Snow plows have been through here, but not very often at all. Now, when we were driving up here, we actually ran into a cyclist who was basically stranded at a snowbank. He was trying to cycle from Vancouver to Squamish. Have a listen.
Raining, and I suppose I was somewhat ill-prepared for the snowy conditions. Car not seeing me. It's important to be careful to not get your underlayers wet. Yeah, keep moving, keep the blood flowing. This is something that many people do. I'm not the only person who does outdoor activities in cold weather conditions.
Anita, we can see cars behind you heading up and down the highway. From what you've seen today, are they prepared to drive in these conditions?
Dan, most of them are not prepared to drive in these conditions. You're seeing a lot of them slipping and sliding all over the road. In fact, I saw a little smart car trying to drive up a hill in these conditions, and I can tell you that their hazard lights were on, and I'm not sure that they made it very far. We also saw a few cars into the ditch, so it's not going over very well. Dan, so, if there's one message to get out there tonight, if you are trying to get up the Sea to Sky Highway, if you're trying to go to Squamish or Whistler, avoid it if you can. And if you do have to drive it, make sure you're prepared, because not only are you putting yourself in danger, you're also putting everybody else on the road in danger. And, this ice is coming down so hard right now. Just to explain to you, it's actually going into my eyes and taking out my contacts. That's how hard this snow is coming down. So please, if you can avoid the Sea to Sky today into tomorrow, please do so. Dan?
Good advice, Anita. Please get indoors and drive safe tonight.
We're sharing really important information with the public, and I feel like this is exactly what our job is, especially as the public broadcaster, especially in morning radio. That's incredibly important.
Land Back is a CBC original podcast where we uncover land theft in Canada and look at how Indigenous people are taking it all back.
And that's what empowered nations and empowered people to just literally steal land.
This is a consequence of your actions.
And it's time to give land back.
Land Back is out now on CBC Listen or wherever you get your podcasts.
Overseas now, Hong Kong is experiencing its biggest wave of immigration in decades. Many are fleeing to Canada as political freedoms and civil rights are squeezed and outright disappear. And as Lisa Shing reports, the federal government is coming under more pressure to make it easier for them to stay here.
Small comforts of home in a time of big change there.
The Hong Kong that we grew up in, that we used to know, it's not the same anymore.
That's why this woman, who wants her identity hidden out of fear for her family's safety, left Hong Kong last year. One of tens of thousands to do so since 2019, the city's largest exodus perhaps ever.
When we're seeing clips like police brutality or just, protesters being beat up, it's just like, it's very hopeless that you cannot actually do something about it.
Many former residents say they left Hong Kong because of China's tightening grip on the semi-autonomous region, including Daviv Lai.
I think nowadays in Hong Kong is not a better place to let my kids grow up.
When the former British colony reverted back to Chinese rule in 1997, China promised Hong Kong autonomy. But following massive anti-government demonstrations in 2019, Beijing passed a sweeping law, making it easier to prosecute protesters. The final straw for many, strict COVID lockdowns as other countries relaxed regulations.
People are rushing to get out, especially those with young kids. They are trying to, ensure that their kids will have a education in a liberal democratic society.
Hong Kong says 110,000 residents left in the first half of 2022 alone. Many have come to Canada through special federal programs. This immigration lawyer says his clients feel those programs are too strict, eligible to only those who have graduated from a post-secondary institution in the last 5 years.
Yes, there is an argument to expanding these programs to catch more of those mid-career professionals and other highly qualified people.
Especially because many of them don't plan to go home anytime soon.
You don't see a future there?
Yes, that is exactly the words that I would use to describe.
Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada tells CBC News Hong Kong residents can apply to other immigration programs or seek asylum if they believe they're at risk of persecution. Lisa Shing, CBC News, Toronto.
Time for our BC-wide weather forecast with Kuljeet Kaila. Kuljeet, before we get to the future, some very different commutes for people today across our region.
Absolutely. One of our friends and colleagues here in the CBC newsroom, Saurabh Sandhu, made sure he videotaped his commute in from Surrey because he's been making fun of me because I get to walk to work. He didn't want me to miss out on what he had to go through. He had so much fun.
Yeah, you could tell.
But yeah, he grabbed us great footage, and this is all the way from Surrey over Highway 1, I assume, and into downtown Vancouver. A little bit of slipping, a little bit of sliding. And look at that snow that's turned into slush. Now, my fear is with the temperatures dropping overnight and cold conditions coming, we might start to see some icy conditions, and that's what we heard from Johanna earlier as well. Now, this isn't the last of the snow. We are going to see a little bit more before the week is through, and it's because of a cold front coming to us by about Friday morning, if not by Thursday night, and it's going to stick around, bringing some cold conditions most of Friday, but that will turn to rain on Saturday. Current temperatures outside, look at this. This cold front is affecting all of BC. Minus 33 in Prince George, minus 40 in Fort Nelson, and minus 19 in Lytton as well. So very cold through there. Tomorrow's temperatures still sitting in the double digits and in the negatives, minus 28, and sunny in Prince George. Cold but sunny, minus 35 up in Dees Lake. What we need to know here for the Lower Mainland is today was minus 6. Average temperature for this time of the year around 6 degrees. We haven't seen this since about 2008 where we recorded our low at 15.2. This Arctic front means minus 20 temperatures and plus that's with the wind chill and of course more snow coming. 80% chance on Thursday. It'll stick with us into Friday, and this is what the long-term forecast looks like. Sunshine for Wednesday and Thursday, but very cold temperatures for the Lower Mainland. That snow coming on Friday, turning to wet conditions and rain on Saturday and Sunday, and then that rain stays with us for the early part of Tuesday. But look at the totals, 20 millimeters, 10, 15, 10. So wet over the weekend, wet heading into next week. I have a great idea. I think we should just call it a day, head into the holiday season early, and just, you know.
If you can put that in a memo right now to everybody that needs to know, that would be awesome.
Done.
Thanks, Kuljeet.
You're welcome.
Back to air travel issues now. WestJet has just released the number of flights grounded due to the winter blast. 210 cancellations today, 150 cancellations from earlier this week. Those groundings are affecting people all over this giant country. As Peter Cowan reports, one family flying from Toronto is now separated on 2 flights days apart, while another man rented a car and drove home.
All of these problems are because of one canceled flight on Sunday evening from Toronto to St. John's. It's a busy travel time of the year, and because WestJet only runs 1 flight a day, those flights are all booked up, which is why it's telling some passengers it's going to be a week before they can get to St. John's. For example, Jerry Neal is traveling with 2 small kids and his wife. They've been back and forth between the airport and the hotel, and he says it's pretty hard news when they have 2 children and are told they won't be home for Christmas.
We realized this morning, lying in bed in the hotel, that our kids are going to be Christmas morning waking up in a hotel with an airplane going over our heads every 45 seconds, shaking the room. No presents, no Santa, no Christmas tree. Stuck in Toronto. At that point, we'll be here for 7 days. We got here Sunday. They're not getting us out of here until next Sunday. It's ridiculous.
Well, not everyone is waiting, though. When David Bradbury was told it could be a week, he rented a car and drove 3,000 kilometers through Quebec, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, and tonight he's taking the ferry to Newfoundland. He says even though that's going to cost him about $2,500, it was worth it to be home for Christmas.
Well, I'm working in BC. I've been gone since May. I haven't seen my wife since September, and I have a new grandchild I haven't even met yet. And I miss my family and friends, and I want to get home for Christmas.
Some good news for Jerry Neal and his family. 2 of the 4 of them are expected to make it out tonight on the WestJet flight. Unfortunately, the other 2 are still going to be stuck in Toronto. WestJet tells me they're dealing with about 100 flight cancellations and disruptions a day across their network, limiting their ability to do things like put on extra flights. Peter Cowan, CBC News, St. John's.
We have a developing story out of Washington, D.C. tonight, where a congressional committee has voted to publicly release former President Donald Trump's tax returns. Trump has fought for years to keep his returns confidential, but the U.S. Supreme Court recently cleared the way for them to be handed over to Congress. Today, the Democrat-controlled committee approved the release of 6 years of returns, and the redacted copies are expected within days. A man in Victoria has come up with a unique BC solution to clear off the streets of snow. His tools, a bike and a plow. We'll jump on board next.
Every person in this long line has a story. Passengers with delayed or canceled flights, hours of waiting, hoping they can rebook and fly out. Sheena Rwinda has been trying to get to Ottawa since Sunday. So I've been in the wrong line for 3 hours. I did miss my flight. And it's not just Christmas on the line. Rwinda's sister is due to give birth tomorrow. I'm not even talking to her because I don't want her to be worried, but yeah, all will work out. I mean, I have no choice but to be patient.
Flights being grounded on the West Coast has created a domino effect, which has led to all of these lines and cancellations and flight delays. And unfortunately for these travelers, it doesn't look like it's going to let up anytime soon.
We're starting to see some impacts from other airports having some pretty poor weather. And of course, as soon as it hits some of those major airports like Vancouver, impacts the whole system. So we're starting to see some delays and some cancellations because of those aircraft are at other locations and they're not getting out of there. So it just trickles down through the whole system.
Linda Martin's story started in Kelowna. After 2 cancellations, a night in a hotel, and hours in line, optimism that she'll get to Comox today is fading.
My kids are there and they're having a great time without me. My husband they're off doing things, probably going snowshoeing today. They went curling yesterday, sending me pictures. I'm sad.
That's where Yin comes in. This airport employee may not be able to rebook flights, but for a few minutes, he can distract passengers from the delays.
A lot of people have already thanked us for just cheering them up. So especially the kids, give them a little bit something to talk about.
Yin may be getting a lot of love this week. Thursday and Friday are set to be the busiest travel days of the year. Emily Fitzpatrick, CBC News, Edmonton.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell. Here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox. Stream your favorite CBC dramas or comedies 24/7 on demand on the CBC Gem app. Plus, you can live stream CBC Vancouver News. Check it out at gem.cbc.ca. And never miss a special programming series or contest. Subscribe to CBC Vancouver's e-newsletter at cbc.ca/Vancouver inbox and keep connected with us.
Snow clearing has been a major challenge for British Columbians across the province today, but a man from Victoria has come up with a uniquely BC solution. It's the sort of invention you need to see to believe.
Yeehaw! Wow!
I've got this electric cargo bike, and the idea came to me last year to try putting a plow on the front of it and seeing if I could push it along. And it worked surprisingly well. And then I made a second version of the plow that's more of kind of a split design. And yeah, I finally had the opportunity last night to take it out for a bit of a test ride.
I kind of went out, not really expecting to be out for very long, but it was going so well. It was working so well, and it was so fun once I got started. And like people were like waving at me and like laughing. It was really a fun time. And then I got hungry, so I was like, well, I'm gonna get some Vietnamese food from downtown. So I thought, well, why don't I plow my way into the city? Folks in cars were just kind of like looking and kind of laughing, kind of not believing their eyes with what they were seeing, because it was working so well. Like I was biking along and there was just a wave of snow on either side, just blasting around me. And then of course I passed a few pedestrians and a few cyclists.
I do service calls. I repair appliances, and this is how I get around, is this bike. And also, a couple years ago, I started an electric bike company, Sustainawave. So I also build electric bikes now. So it kind of started with me riding around for my service work and finding it hard to get around on snow days. And I thought, it'd be really nice if some of these bike lanes were plowed, and then it just sort of came together for me.
Well done, Mr. Plow. Vancouver actor Ryan Reynolds is doing his part to give back this holiday season with a new initiative aimed at raising funds for the Greater Vancouver Food Bank. In a tweet, Ryan writes that he and wife Blake Lively will be matching donations made to support the food bank's Baby Steps nutrition program. The couple will match up to $25,000 in donations, which will go toward formula, diapers, and baby food. Reynolds' offer coincides with our own food bank fundraising. All month we're collecting donations for the food banks, and there is still time to give. To date, you have donated more than $2.4 million. A big round of applause to you. The annual fundraiser kicked off earlier this month with our Food Bank Day here at CBC, and some special guests were on site to help soundtrack the event. Our cameras were rolling as they played. Have a listen.
It's been too long since I've seen you, my dear. There's a fire and hot cider for when you get here. All the lights in the tree and the stars in the sky don't shine as bright without you by my side. Train, a sleigh, just in time for Christmas. Snow is falling and I hear the sound of bells ringing across town. People saying it's Christmas. Another year wrapped up, another closets full of presents, stockings in a line. All the bows and cut ribbons mean nothing to me. When I open the door, you're all I want to see. A plane, a train, a sleigh, just in time for Christmas. Snow is falling and I hear the sound of bells ringing across town. People saying it's Christmas. It's been so long since I've seen you, my dear. There's a card in the mail wishing Happy New Year. Sometimes we don't all make it home, but that doesn't mean we spend Christmas alone. A plane, a train, a sleigh, just in time for Christmas. Snow is falling and I hear the sound of bells ringing across town. People saying it's Christmas. Snow is falling and I hear the sound of bells ringing across town. People saying it's Christmas.
And that's a fitting song, to say the least. And a reminder, you can still donate to our food bank drive. Just visit foodbanksbc.com. Please give whatever you can, and thank you to everyone who's donated so far. And thank you for being with us tonight on CBC Vancouver News at 6. You can watch this newscast on CBC Gem, our free app, as well as YouTube, Instagram, and of course our website, cbc.ca/BC. Zara Premji will have your late local news at 11 o'clock with the latest on the winter weather woes and the travel delays, not to mention the forecast for tomorrow and beyond. So be sure to tune in before you turn in. That's right after the National. Good night. Please stay safe.